Hey everyone, you're watching Peas in a Pod, and today I'm going to help you get your shy dogs to go out on a walk. This video is intended for mainly rescue dogs, so basically dogs that either have never been walked or have a past trauma with walking, and that makes them not want to walk anymore. So this is going to go one of two ways for you and your dog. The first way is that your dog is actually not as fearful as you think, it just needs some practice, and with that your dog will just naturally kind of like move on with its life. The second situation is where the dog is actually truly really fearful and is really going to take some patience and work. And so in either of these scenarios, I want you to get something in your head first, right away, straight off, and that is these walks I'm about to tell you to go on, you're not going to actually probably go anywhere, you're not going to walk anywhere, you're going to be in your front yard for a huge chunk of the time, or within like a couple blocks of the front yard or porch or wherever you live. Sometimes I think people get frustrated because they think, oh, you know, we went outside and like we need to go somewhere, we need to move from our position. And mentally too, I think people are also like, a dog gets tired from walking, and that's not the case. And then you get frustrated when you haven't been walking because your dog doesn't want to go because it's afraid, and then your dog senses your frustration and it really just reverts back into its shell. So just get in your head that if you don't go anywhere, you don't go anywhere. That's fine. And I also want to let you guys know that I am going to talk for a little bit, but then toward the end of this video, I'm going to have some video examples of me walking a dog with some of the things I've talked about. So stay tuned for that. Very important. It's good to actually see some of this stuff in motion. Okay, so number one is the dog that is more confident than it's coming off. And so these dogs tend to be dogs that are just have never been walked. So they don't have a fear of walking, it's just they don't know how to, they don't know what they're doing. And I do want to say for new dogs for this situation, I would harness your dog regardless of whatever kind of collar or situation, like a lead, whatever you want to use in the future. For this, I would use a harness, especially for the fearful dog that we'll talk about next, because harnesses are more comforting to the body and they're not as harsh to pull. Like when you do kind of tug on the dog, they're not pulling on a sensitive area, which is the neck or like the face if you're using a like a gentle leader. What you're going to do is you're going to take your dog to whatever is immediately outside of your house, to the sidewalk. If you live in an apartment or a house or some other situation, you need to get out of your house into the front area of it. And so for a house, that would be like the front sidewalk. For an apartment, depending on how your apartments are arranged, you don't have to like go out to the street sidewalk. Even if you just kind of go out onto the first path that like leads to your apartment, that counts. So just get your dog out of the entry area of your house, and you're gonna stand there. You're gonna stand there, you're gonna stand there, you're gonna stand there, you're gonna stand there for 3 to 5 days, doing nothing. And the reason for this is because a dog that's not used to walking, is fearful on a leash, needs that time to stand in place and actually look around and make sure the area that it's about to move into is safe. By honestly staying in place and letting it realize that that immediate area, wherever its eyes can reach, is not scary. After 3 and 5 days, and also this is not strict, so if your dog on day 1 is like ready to kind of walk, go ahead. But if your dog is fearful and wants to sit with it. But after about the 5th day or 3rd day, if you notice your dog starting kind of get like bored in place and like this seems familiar, your dog is ready to go. Steps 2 is to go where your dog leads you. You're gonna let your dog walk you. And I know this is bad manners and bad training, but for a dog that's scared or doesn't know how to walk on a leash, this is a better first step than trying to be so strict and controlling that it reverts and it never wants to walk. You're gonna let your dog lead you for about a week. And this isn't a ton of time, so this isn't really too much to form a bad habit, but you want to let them lead you for a week. Wherever they want to walk is where they want to walk. Where if they stop and decide they want to go home, you're going to go home with them. You're going to let them lead you for about a week. And this is to build their confidence that because wherever they're going, they feel confident in going to go, right? It's like a tongue twister. Now step 3 is you're going to start leading them in the direction you want. So let's just say when you're heading out your door, if your dog wants to go left, but you want to go right, and you've been walking and your dog's confident and has no problem going left, and so you're like, okay, you can go right now. What you're gonna do is if your dog wants to go left, you're gonna head right, and if it stops, like I don't want to go that way, you stop too, and you're gonna wait, like I said, until that dog kind of like circles itself around that direction. And when because it's gonna move. When it starts heading in that direction, then you encourage it and you praise it and you go that way. And then eventually your dog's gonna learn like, oh, this way's safe to walk too. The next dog I'm gonna talk about is the dog that's completely shut down. These dogs are the ones I've worked with most. These are dogs that the only time they've been on a walk or on a leash or on a harness is a bad experience. So not only do they not know how to walk, but they don't want to. Okay, so you're gonna do all the same steps as the last dog, but you are going to slow it down. Way, 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 way down. You're gonna put on a harness and a leash in the house, and you're just gonna spend some days with the dog wearing that around the house. Let the leash drag behind it, treats for taking the harness on and off. You're gonna have treats for anything that involves that harness and leash. Once they're used to just having it on, then you are gonna start to kind of pick up the leash, and you're gonna walk them in your house. And the kind of the caveat to this is they should be somewhat familiar with your house, and if you have a backyard, perfect, and they're familiar with the backyard, you're just gonna walk them in your house and in your backyard. You just follow them around the house, or if they get kind of freeze, you could just stand there in your house and or like guide them a little bit or be encouraging them. But you want to get them used to the sensation and the kind of the motions of what a walk is. Once you notice they're confident with that and they're like, okay, I'm in the house, you're then going to go outside and do the same thing. So you're going to go outside and you're just going to stand on the sidewalk holding your dog. Even if they want to go somewhere the first couple days, I might even just still kind of hold them in place. Sometimes a dog will move because it's scared. So I don't want you to misinterpret like you taking it outside as if it's trying to move, usually toward the house, it's because it wants to go back in. So I would actually kind of keep it there for the first couple days, and just 3 to 5 days again, standing at the sidewalk and letting it get familiar with the area. So you're gonna stand there, and again, about maybe a little longer with fearful dogs, maybe 5 to 7 days is when you're gonna start encouraging it to walk a little bit. So for dogs that don't walk at all and don't want to walk at all, this is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna face the dog and you're gonna hold the leash and back up, talking to it, encouraging it. If it walks towards you, that's perfect, and just keep doing that. Just keep going backwards and talking to your dog, and every few feet give it a treat so it learns movement and coming to you is good. But some dogs will just stay there. They'll freeze because they see you leaving them. They start to freak out a little bit. So if the dog is there and it doesn't want to move, you're going to go back as far as you can until the leash gets tight. Not pulling, just tight. And then you're just going to very, very, very slightly, once that leash is tight, have a tiny, tiny tug and hold it there. You're not jerking, you're not pulling, you're not doing it tight so the dog's like, you know, has its neck out. You're just little tiny tug and hold it there. The reason you do this is because it's not pulling, but it's uncomfortable. And so the dog is not going to necessarily like having this like tension around their body. Because remember, harnesses. They're not going to like the tension around their body, and so what you're going to essentially do is just like hold it there, and the dog should eventually step forward because it wants to release the tension, and that's the direction it's coming from. When the dog steps forward, throw a party. Praise it, be happy for it, pet it, give it treats, do whatever it likes as a form of positive praise. Some dogs will catch on to this. They'll learn that as you back up, the dog should be stepping forward. Some dogs, it'll take a while and just you have to keep doing that over and over. And then once you get a little, like a couple blocks away from your house, don't push it too far if your dog really is that scared. Once you're a couple blocks, you could turn around. Some dogs will just go back home and that's fine, let them walk. But some dogs will freeze back in place once you've turned around, but just do the same method to head back home. Your dog is seemingly comfortable and kind of getting it and doing it faster. You're gonna pull and make it do a couple steps. So you'll pull and kind of keep the tension as it walks. So that way it starts doing a stepping motion and you're praising, and then when it reaches you, give it a treat. Step back fully all the way, you're gonna pull it, keep pulling it until it gets to you, treat and praise, and then you keep doing that. And the dog will start learning a walking motion. You're walking too, so pulling and walking, and the dog will kind of follow you in that stepping motion. And then after a couple blocks of doing that, stop and give it a treat. Don't like over push your limits, so just keep walking, pushing, treat, keep doing a treat, and then you head back and turn around. Eventually, like the dog should kind of just start walking, and when it does, you're gonna follow the dog. So if one day you go out and your dog just kind of wants to explore, you follow your dog. You're gonna let your dog walk you. I know that's a bad habit, but with dogs like this, they just need to get used to being outside and walking on a leash and confidence. I don't really care if they're the one leading me at this point because I can correct that later when they're confident. And now let's go ahead and see some video example of me with a dog that was in the same position. This was a very fearful dog, didn't even like a leash. But I've been working with her, so she's a beagle, and I'm gonna show you her now, which is still a little bit of that like tug and pull, but you can see like a medium progress. So what you're seeing here is she's stuck in place, but I'm holding the leash, and notice it's not super tight, but it's uncomfortable because it's, you know, it's pulling. And so she releases it, and she knows that if she walks forward, the tension will release. And I'm walking backwards. I'm still facing her at this point, but I'm walking backwards just to give her confidence. But as long as she's walking, I'm walking. And here she stops, but she's not stopping because she doesn't want to walk. She's stopping because she's smelling. So I stop with her. And notice right there, I'll play it again, that the leash was slack right there because I know she's just smelling. So I don't want to keep it tight with pressure. I just want to let her know she's allowed to smell. She can smell, so I leave the leash slack as long as she's smelling. And as soon as she looks up and you can kind of tell they're done smelling, I encourage her to keep walking again. So now we're gonna watch another clip. In the beginning of this one, you're gonna see me jerk her just a little bit. That is only because that I have been working with her and she is confident to go on a walk now. So right now we're working on kind of redirection and going where I want. So now we're correcting that you follow me, I don't follow you. But you'll still see some of the other like kind of stopping behaviors. So here's the clip. Notice she starts to go off the path, so I do a little jerk, like no, we're moving forward. She does take a minute to stall, but I don't pull her, I just let her kind of reorient herself. And now we're walking, and the leash is slack as long as she's walking. But see, she turns around, and that's where I stop, because I don't want to head back yet. So the leash is slack as long as she's going forward, and here you notice she's stopping. She's getting nervous, but so I do a little tug, because we've been working, so she can get little tugs. And she does start to move forward, but she's trying to head back. So I let her go a little bit, and what I'm going to do is redirect her forward. So I'm letting her smell around, and then we're going to move forward again once she starts kind of making progress. And here we go, forward. Just very slow. So I hope that helped. Again, she was one of those very special cases, and we just started with the leash in the house thing, and then we just kind of stood in the area thing. We did confidence building in place. I let her lead me for a lot of the time, and now she's at the point where we can walk together, but you can see examples of the kind of the leash tugging and stuff like that to get her to keep going, and that's okay, but you only want to do it when your dog is comfortable. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, because that's the best way for me to kind of help you out once a video is posted, because if you have further questions, like find me in the comments. If you like the content, please subscribe, it really is super helpful. I will see you next week because I post weekly, so every Friday, and I will see you in 7 days. Bye!